The young waitress rushed forward. Her tray crashed. Silverware clattered across the polished marble floor. "Don't eat that! Please, Mr. Finch, don't touch the coq au vin. I saw him. The new kitchen porter who started this morning. He wasn't chopping vegetables. He was holding a small vial with a dropper. He put 3 drops into your sauce when Chef Antoine turned his back. I thought it was just a special seasoning until I saw him slip the vial back into his pocket." Finch's head of security stepped forward, grabbed the waitress's arm. Her eyes widened in fear. "Let her go, Donovan," Finch said, his voice a low rasp. "Tell me, young lady, what did this man look like? Every single detail. My life may depend on it." "Donovan." She described a man with a faint scar above his left eye and a silver pinky ring. "You vetted every new hire personally. How did a man with those distinct features, who wasn't on any official staff roster, get into my kitchen and past your supposedly impenetrable security protocols? You're either incompetent or you're complicit, and I demand to know which." Donovan's face went pale. His jaw clenched. His hand instinctively moved toward his jacket. "Sir, that's an outrageous accusation. I ran checks on all 3 new hires this week. They were clean. This must be a professional operative, someone who swapped places with a legitimate hire after my background check was completed. It's a sophisticated hit, not a simple lapse in my security." Finch unlocked his private study, pulled an old photo album, flipped to a faded picture, a scar above the left eye, a silver pinky ring. It can't be. Julian Croft. He died in that boating accident 20 years ago. The body was identified. The funeral was closed casket, but the report said the damage was extensive. What if it wasn't him? What if he faked it all and has been waiting all this time? He grabbed his encrypted phone, dialed a number from memory, waited for the secure connection. "Serafina, it's Alistair. We have a problem. A ghost has returned from the grave. I think Julian Croft is alive, and he just tried to poison me." Finch's lawyer, Serafina Reed, examined the restaurant's employment files, scanned the new hire applications. "This is impossible, Alistair. The porter you hired was a man named Leo Petrov. His file is perfect. Social security number, past addresses, references, it all checks out. If Julian Croft used this identity, he had to have deep institutional help. This isn't just a forged driver's license. This is a complete fabrication of a life, created to pass a top-tier background check." Serafina grabbed her tablet, typed furiously, accessed a private database, cross-referenced the social security number. The number is real. It was issued to a Leo Petrov in 1985. The problem is, the real Leo Petrov died 6 months ago in Chicago. Someone stole his identity. "You let a man using a dead person's identity into my kitchen, Donovan. Your top-tier background check didn't flag that the man you approved was buried in a Chicago cemetery 6 months ago. This goes beyond a simple swap. This is a catastrophic failure that put my life on the line. I want to know how your system missed this." Donovan's knuckles turned white. He gripped the edge of the mahogany desk. His eyes darted away. "The system we use cross-references against active databases, not mortality records. It's a loophole, I admit. An oversight. He must have known about this specific vulnerability in our software. This wasn't a mistake. It was a targeted exploit of our exact security protocols." Clara, the waitress, stared at the security footage. She froze the frame, pointed at the screen. "There, that's him. But look at his watch. It's a Patek Philippe, one of those world timers. Why would a kitchen porter be wearing a watch worth more than this entire restaurant? And he keeps checking it, not like he's checking the time, but like he's synchronizing with something. Something outside. He's not just a poisoner, He's part of a team. She grabbed a notepad, sketched the watch face from memory, drew the unique dial pattern. We need to find out who else owns a watch like that. It's a limited edition. Maybe there's a record of the sale, a serial number we can trace. Finch pulled up the personnel file again, scanned the emergency contact information for Leo Petrov. The emergency contact is listed as a Mrs. Anya Petrova at an address downtown. It's most likely another fake, a dead end. But the phone number provided, it might still be active. He wouldn't expect us to look this closely at a detail like that. He'd assume I'd be dead by now. The investigation focused on the kitchen. He grabbed his burner phone, punched in the number, listened to it ring twice before hanging up. "Donovan, get a trace on this number. I want to know where it pings. Don't call it, just locate it. We need to know where Julian's safe house is. I've reviewed the security logs from the past week, Mr. Finch. The Leo Petrov identity was added to the system 3 days ago. The user account that created the file belongs to Marcus Thorne, your CFO. Why would your head of finance be personally adding a kitchen porter's file to the system? That's an HR function. It makes no sense." Marcus Thorne's face went slack. He dropped his pen on the blotter. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "That's absurd. My login credentials must have been stolen. Someone in IT must have accessed my account. I haven't logged into the HR portal in over a year. Check the IP address. It won't be from my office. This is a clear attempt to frame me." Serafina held up a tablet, displayed the IP logs, pointed to a specific entry. "The IP address is from your home network, Marcus. The login occurred at 2:17 a.m. 3 days ago, using your personal laptop's unique MAC address. You weren't hacked. You personally created the file for Julian Croft's alias. Now tell us why you're working with a man who just tried to murder your boss." He pushed his chair back, stood up abruptly, ran a hand through his thinning hair. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Julian contacted me. Yes. He said he had proof of financial misconduct from the early days of the company. Things that could ruin Alistair. He blackmailed me. He said if I didn't help him get inside, he'd release documents that would send us all to prison. I was trying to protect the company." Finch slammed his fist on the desk, grabbed the intercom button, spoke with cold fury. "Donovan, get in here. Thorne has just confessed to aiding my would-be assassin. He claims it was under duress. I want you to take him to the panic room and get the real story out of him. No lawyers, no calls, just you and him. Find out what Julian is really planning." Clara sifted through the trash from the restaurant kitchen, examined discarded vegetable peels, found a crumpled napkin. Wait a minute. This isn't a kitchen napkin. It's from the hotel across the street, the Sovereign. And there's a note scribbled on it. It looks like a room number and a time. Room 712, 10 p.m. The poisoner must have been staying there, using it as a base of operations before his shift. He got careless and threw it away. She grabbed her phone, opened a map application, checked the hotel's location and layout. "The Sovereign is directly opposite your office building, Mr. Finch. Room 712 would have a perfect sniper's view of your penthouse office. The poison wasn't the only plan." "Donovan, I'm sending you a photo of a napkin," Finch said, his voice tight with urgency. "It has a room number and a time for the Sovereign Hotel. Julian had a backup plan. If the poison failed, he had a sniper nest waiting. I want your team at that hotel 10 minutes ago. Sweep room 712. I want everything in it." He paced his study, stared out the window at the hotel. His own office felt like a cage. "Serafina, start a deep dive on the Sovereign's ownership. Julian wouldn't choose a location at random. He either owns it through a shell corporation or has someone on the inside." Donovan's team stormed the hotel room, kicked down the door, found it empty. "The room is clean, sir. Too clean. Wiped down for prints, no personal effects left behind. But they missed something. We found a shredded document in the plumbing trap of the sink. It's being pieced together now. It looks like a schematic, some kind of floor plan. Not for this hotel, though. The layout is different. It has server rooms and reinforced walls." He grabbed a photo sent from his team, zoomed in on a detail, scanned the title block. "It's a blueprint for your primary data center, Mr. Finch, the one that houses all the proprietary algorithms for the Project Chimera launch next week. This isn't just about you." "He's not just after me. He's after my life's work," Finch stated, his voice devoid of emotion. "Julian doesn't want revenge. He wants to steal Project Chimera. The assassination attempt was just a distraction, a way to throw us into chaos while his real team targets the data center. He wants to bankrupt me, then sell my own technology back to our competitors." His face was a mask of cold fury, his hands clenched into fists. He stared at the blueprint fragments. He knows he can't replicate the research, so he's planning a direct physical assault to steal the data. "Donovan, what's the security protocol at the data center?" "The data center is a fortress, sir. Biometric scanners, armed guards, Faraday cage shielding. It's impenetrable from the outside. The only way in is with the access codes of a Level 4 administrator. There are only 3 people with that level of clearance. You, me, and Marcus Thorne. And Marcus is currently indisposed. He can't get in without one of us." Serafina pulled up a file on her laptop, scrolled through financial records, froze on a transaction. "I've been digging into Marcus's offshore accounts. He received a wire transfer for $2 million 3 days ago. The source account is a shell corp based in the Cayman Islands. The name of the corporation is Nightingale Holdings. Alistair, that's the same name as the shell company Julian used to fake his death 20 years ago." She clicked on another file. A deed of ownership appeared. Her eyes widened. And Nightingale Holdings isn't just a bank account. It's the primary shareholder for the private security firm that guards your data center. Julian doesn't need to break in. He owns the guards. "He owns the guards," Finch repeated, the words tasting like ash. "Donovan, he's been planning this for years, buying the security firm, planting Thorne in my company, waiting for the perfect moment. Project Chimera. He knew it was the most valuable asset I've ever produced. He's not just stealing data. He's staging a corporate coup from the shadows, using my own infrastructure against me." He grabbed his phone, dialed a number on the secure line. His expression was grim. "Get me General Madsen. Tell him I'm calling in the promise he made me in '98. I have a hostile infiltration at a private facility." "Yes, it's active." Clara examined the high-resolution photo of the hotel room, scanned every corner, spotted something small. "Mr. Finch, look. Tucked under the leg of the desk. It's a cufflink. It must have fallen off when he was packing up in a hurry. It's monogrammed. The letters look like J.C., Julian Croft. But there's another symbol below it, a small bird, a nightingale. It's the logo for his shell company. He's arrogant. He's branding his crimes." She zoomed in further, noticed a reflection in the cufflink's polished surface, flipped the image. "Wait, there's a reflection. You can see the screen of his laptop in it. It shows a calendar appointment. Final sync, Pier 7, 11 p.m. That's tonight?" "He's meeting someone at the docks tonight," Finch growled, looking at the image Clara had enhanced. "This final sync must be the last step before the assault on the data center. He's meeting his inside man, or his extraction team. Donovan, cancel the sweep at the data center. It's a feint, The real action is at Pier 7. I want your best team there, silent and invisible." He turned to Serafina. His eyes were hard as diamonds. He pointed at the cufflink photo. "Serafina, get that Nightingale logo to our intellectual property team. I want to know every company, every asset, every single piece of paper that bears that symbol. We're going to dismantle his empire before he can even launch his attack. Start with Nightingale Holdings." "I have the preliminary report on Nightingale Holdings, Alistair," Serafina said, her voice strained. "It's bigger than we thought. It's not just the security firm. It owns a logistics company that operates out of the city port, specifically out of Pier 7. He's not just meeting his team there. He controls the entire pier. It's his private staging ground." Her face was grim. She looked up from her tablet, her expression one of disbelief. "And there's more. The logistics company has a major contract. With us. With Finch Industries. They handle all of our sensitive hardware shipments, including the new server components for the Project Chimera data center. They've had access for months." "So he's had physical access to my data center for months, under the guise of being a contracted vendor," Finch seethed. "He didn't need to break in. His people have been walking in the front door, wearing uniforms, carrying toolboxes. They could have planted anything. Bugs, logic bombs, physical back doors. The entire facility is compromised. He's been playing a completely different game." He slammed his hand on the table. The sharp crack echoed in the silent room. "He's not planning to steal the data. He's planning to destroy it, and us with it." Donovan ran a diagnostic on the data center's security logs, cross-referenced vendor access times, found an anomaly. "Sir, I've got something. A hardware upgrade was performed last Tuesday at 3 a.m. by a team from Julian's logistics firm. The work order was approved by Marcus Thorne. They were inside the main server room for 4 hours. According to the logs, they installed a new cooling unit. But the temperature logs for that sector show no change. The installation was a ghost." He clicked through security camera stills, found a grainy image of a technician carrying a case. They didn't install a cooling unit. They installed a device. Based on the case dimensions and the power draw from that server rack, I'd say it's a high-grade thermobaric device. "A bomb," Finch stated flatly. "He planted a bomb inside my data center, right next to the Project Chimera servers. And Marcus Thorne signed off on it. He's not just a traitor, he's an accomplice to domestic terrorism. This was never about a corporate takeover. It's about annihilation. He wants to erase me, my legacy, everything. He knows the data is backed up off-site. He wants the original hardware." He turned to Clara, his expression unreadable. His voice was dangerously calm. "He wants the prototype server core. It's the only piece of hardware that isn't backed up." Clara re-examined the photo of Julian Croft's 20-year-old boating accident report, scanned the witness list. "Mr. Finch, something here is wrong. The primary witness who identified Julian's body was a charter boat captain named Elias Vance. According to this, he was a decorated ex-Navy SEAL. A man with his training wouldn't misidentify a body, even a damaged one, unless he was paid to lie. I think we need to find Captain Vance. He's the key to how Julian pulled this off." She typed the name into a private investigator's database, scrolled through public records, found a match. He's not a charter captain anymore. He's the CEO of a maritime logistics company, the same one that Nightingale Holdings owns, the one that operates out of Pier 7. So the man who declared Julian dead is now the CEO of his front company, Finch mused, a dark smile touching his lips. The conspiracy is 20 years old. Julian didn't just survive, he had a plan from the very beginning. This Elias Vance isn't just an employee, He's a co-conspirator. He's probably the man Julian is meeting tonight at Pier 7. The final sync is between the two men who started this. He looked at Donovan. His eyes were like chips of ice. Your team at Pier 7 has a new primary target, Elias Vance. I want him alive. Serafina rushed into the room, held up her phone, displayed an urgent market alert. Alistair, someone is trying to short your stock. A massive block of put options was just purchased through an anonymous brokerage in Switzerland. They're betting billions that Finch Industries' stock price will collapse within the next 48 hours. The trade was initiated by a fund controlled by Nightingale Holdings. The attack isn't just physical, it's financial. They're planning to destroy the data center and profit from the ensuing chaos. Her finger traced the timestamp of the trade. Her breath hitched. The trade was executed 60 seconds ago. They're moving now. They think you're already dead. They think I'm dead, Finch repeated slowly. That means the bomb in the data center is on a timer, and it's set to go off soon. The stock short is their endgame. Destroy the prototype, the stock plummets, and they walk away billionaires. It's a perfect crime. But they made one mistake. They didn't account for a waitress with a conscience. He grabbed his coat, walked toward the door with a purpose he hadn't felt in years. Donovan, get the car. We're going to the data center. Serafina, start buying. Use my personal funds to buy every share of Finch Industries you can get your hands on. Squeeze them. Clara, you're with me. Clara examined the data center blueprints, traced the ventilation shafts, compared them to the server room layout. There's a maintenance shaft that runs directly behind the main server rack where they installed the device. It's not on the main security schematics. It's an old service conduit, too small for a person. But it's connected to the external HVAC unit on the roof. We can't disarm the bomb from the inside, but we might be able to neutralize it from the outside. She pointed to a junction on the diagram, circled it with a red marker. If we can pump liquid nitrogen into the HVAC intake, we can flash freeze the entire server room. It would instantly kill the bomb's battery and electronic trigger. It would also destroy the prototype server, Finch countered, his voice grim. Freezing it at that temperature would shatter the crystalline processors. We'd save the building, but my life's work would be gone. Julian would still win, in a way. He'd achieve his primary objective of destroying the core technology. There must be another way to disable the device without destroying the server. He stared at the schematics. His mind raced through a dozen different scenarios. The device needs a signal to detonate or a timer to expire. If we can't stop the timer, we need to block the signal. Mr. Finch, I've been looking at Marcus Thorne's phone records, Serafina said over the speakerphone. He made one call after Julian contacted him. Not to the police, not to a lawyer. He called his sister. She's a patient at the St. Jude's oncology wing. Her medical bills for the last year exceed $500,000. They were paid for, in full, by an anonymous donation from a Cayman Islands charity. She paused, the implication hanging in the air. A charity administered by Nightingale Holdings. Julian didn't just blackmail Marcus. He bought his loyalty by saving his sister's life. Marcus wasn't just a traitor. He was a desperate man. So he wasn't motivated by greed, but by desperation, Finch murmured, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. That changes the equation. A greedy man is predictable. A desperate man is a wild card. He might have built himself a fail-safe, a way out. He approved the work order, but maybe he left us a clue, a hidden warning he knew only we would understand. He turned to his desk, pulled up the digital work order Thorne had signed. Serafina, analyze the metadata on this file, every byte. Look for steganography, hidden comments, anything. Donovan's voice crackled over the comms system. He was at Pier 7 with his team. We have eyes on the target. Elias Vance just arrived in a black sedan. He's walking toward the end of the pier, carrying a briefcase. No sign of Julian Croft yet. But there's a boat waiting. A high-speed cigarette boat with its engines idling. This looks like an exfiltration plan. Vance is here to pick someone up, or to make a drop. He zoomed in with his binoculars, focused on the briefcase. It was a hardened Pelican case. The case has a satellite uplink. It's a remote detonation unit. He's not here to meet Julian. He's here to trigger the bomb at the data center. He's going to sink the detonator in the harbor after the blast, erasing all evidence, Finch realized instantly. Donovan, you cannot let him activate that device. But if you move in, he might trigger it as a dead man's switch. You have to isolate him, silently. What's the status of your team? Can you jam the signal from that briefcase? He paced the room like a caged lion, the seconds ticking away. We need to know the detonation frequency. Without it, jamming is a shot in the dark. Alistair, I found it, Serafina shouted through the phone. It was hidden in the work order's metadata, a single line of code embedded in the timestamp. It's not a clue, it's a command, a remote deactivation sequence for the data center's emergency fire suppression system. Thorne didn't just let them plant a bomb. He disabled the only automated system that could have stopped it. Her voice was trembling with a mix of horror and discovery. But there's more. The code has a comment attached. It just says, Canary. That's it. Canary. Canary. As in a canary in a coal mine, Finch breathed, the pieces clicking into place. It's a warning. Thorne was telling us there was a hidden threat. But it's also the name of an old project. Project Canary was our first attempt at a quantum encryption key. We abandoned it because it was too unstable, but the prototype is still in the archives. He's telling us the key is in the encryption. He sprinted to a safe, spun the dial, pulled out an old hard drive. The bomb's trigger isn't a simple timer, it's encrypted. Thorne gave us the key. Clara grabbed the hard drive, plugged it into a powerful laptop, booted up the old software. The encryption uses a time-sensitive algorithm based on prime numbers. The deactivation code changes every 60 seconds. We have to push the code to the device's receiver at the exact right moment. But the receiver is inside the data center. We can't get the signal through the building's shielding. We need a direct line of sight to the bomb itself. She looked at the blueprints again. Her eyes landed on the ventilation shaft. The maintenance conduit. It's shielded, but there's a fiber optic access point inside. It was for diagnostics. Donovan, I'm sending you a code sequence, Finch commanded into his phone. You have to get it to the data center's fiber port. But the port is inside the maintenance shaft behind the server. You need to get someone in there. Now, tell me you have a man on site who can do that. We are out of time. The detonation is imminent. The entire system is primed to blow. He listened to the silence on the other end of the line. His knuckles were white. Donovan, respond. What is your status? Do you have access to the fiber port? The launch event for Project Chimera was a symphony of flashing cameras and hushed anticipation. Alistair Finch stood at the podium, a lone figure against a backdrop displaying his company's logo. He cleared his throat, but instead of the expected corporate speech, his voice cut through the room with chilling precision. Before we unveil the future, we must first unmask a ghost from the past. A man who, just last night, tried to murder me with a poison so potent it would have left no trace. He is in this room, right now, believing his plan is still in motion. The crowd gasped, a wave of murmurs spreading as people began recording with their phones. Julian Croft, seated in the third row, under an assumed name, forced a calm smile. This is a pathetic and desperate publicity stunt. Mr. Finch is clearly under immense pressure and is manufacturing drama to inflate his company's profile before a critical launch. Finch pointed to the massive screen behind him as a video began to play. This is security footage from my restaurant's kitchen, taken just last night, he announced. The man you see posing as a kitchen porter, the man adding 3 drops of poison to my meal, is wearing a Patek Philippe World Timer. A rather expensive accessory for a man on minimum wage, wouldn't you agree? It's a limited edition, one of only 12 ever made. I know, because I was there when he bought it 20 years ago. Julian's face drained of color. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped his chair. It's a fake, a replica, he stammered, his voice tight. Anyone can buy a knockoff watch. This proves absolutely nothing. He's trying to frame an innocent man for his own failures. A young woman in a simple dress walked onto the stage from the wings. My name is Clara, she said, her voice steady despite the hundreds of eyes on her. I was his waitress. I saw him with the vial. I saw him put the poison in the sauce when the chef turned his back. I recognized him by the faint scar above his left eye and the silver pinky ring he wears. He's sitting right there in the 3rd row, pretending he doesn't know me. But I remember his face perfectly. She's a disgruntled employee, a nobody, Julian shouted, trying to discredit her. Finch stepped beside Clara, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. This young woman has more integrity and courage than you have ever known. She risked her life to save mine, seeking no reward. Who here has more reason to lie? This man calls himself a ghost, and in a way he's right, Finch continued, his voice resonating with cold fury. He gestured toward Julian, because he is supposed to be dead. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Julian Croft, my former partner, a man who faked his death in a boating accident 2 decades ago. He has been hiding in the shadows, consumed by jealousy, plotting his return. He didn't just try to kill me. He tried to erase his own history to do it. Cameras flashed wildly as the audience stared, a wave of shocked whispers filling the auditorium. This is insane! A complete fabrication! Julian yelled, rising from his seat. My name is Arthur Vance. I have identification. Alistair is having a psychotic breakdown, inventing conspiracies to cover for the fact that his new project is a failure. This is libel. Finch held up a remote, and the screen behind him changed. He displayed the old photo from his album beside a high-resolution still from the kitchen footage. Here is a photo of Julian and me from 22 years ago, and here is the man who tried to poison me. The scar is identical. The silver ring is identical. A green box appeared, overlaying the 2 faces, and facial recognition confirms a 99.7% match. You haven't aged well, Julian. 20 years of hatred has taken its toll. Julian stepped back as if struck, his jaw slack with disbelief. His confident facade crumbled. It's a doppelganger! A coincidence! He sputtered, looking wildly around the room. The photo is old. The footage is grainy. This is a technological witch hunt, a perversion of the facts. An elderly man with a cane stood slowly from the front row. My name is Robert Chen. I was Finch Industries' first investor, he announced. I was at the party where Alistair gave Julian that silver pinky ring as a partnership gift. I remember the inscription inside, to the future. I also remember the scar. He got it during a celebratory fencing match with Alistair. I was there. That man is, without a doubt, Julian Croft. I'd stake my reputation on it. He's an old man. His memory is failing, Julian desperately retorted. Mr. Chen's memory is as sharp as his business acumen, Finch countered, his voice cutting. He has no shares left in my company and nothing to gain. He is here as a friend and as a witness to your long, festering betrayal. But a ghost cannot act alone, Finch declared, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on a man trying to slip out a side door. He needed help from the inside, an accomplice with high-level access to my company's most sensitive systems. That accomplice was my chief financial officer, Marcus Thorne. He used his credentials to create the fake identity that got Julian into my kitchen. He betrayed a decade of trust for a traitor's paycheck, opening the door for his master. The crowd murmured loudly, turning to see Marcus Thorne frozen by the exit, caught. "That's a lie! My credentials were stolen!" Thorne shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "I was hacked. Someone from IT must have used my login. I haven't accessed the HR portal in over a year. Check the logs, Alistair. Check the IP address. It won't be mine." Finch clicked the remote again. A new image filled the screen. "We did check, Marcus," Finch said calmly. "Here are the server logs. The Leo Petrov identity was created 3 days ago at 2:17 a.m. The IP address traces directly to your home network, and more specifically, it came from the unique MAC address of the laptop you are carrying in your briefcase right now. You weren't hacked, Marcus. You were bought." Marcus Thorne's face went completely slack. The briefcase slipped from his trembling hands. "He made me do it!" Marcus cried, his defense collapsing into a desperate plea. "He blackmailed me. He had evidence of financial misconduct from the company's early days. I was only trying to protect us." A pre-recorded video began to play on the large screen behind the stage. Marcus Thorne, looking haggard under the fluorescent lights of an interrogation room, spoke to the camera. "He didn't blackmail me with dirt on the company," Thorne confessed, his voice heavy with shame. "He found out my sister has a rare form of cancer. The treatment costs were bankrupting my family. He paid her medical bills, all of them, through an anonymous charity. He saved her life, and in return, he asked for my loyalty. He bought me with kindness." "This confession was coerced, extorted," Julian screamed from the audience. Serafina Reed, Finch's lawyer, stepped forward on stage. "This confession was given voluntarily in my presence, with no coercion," she stated firmly. "Marcus Thorne chose to tell the truth to mitigate his sentence. He understood that Julian's kindness was just another weapon. The charity Marcus mentioned is the key to this entire conspiracy," Finch announced, his voice booming through the auditorium. "A shell corporation based in the Cayman Islands, created 20 years ago to funnel the money Julian stole before faking his death. It's called Nightingale Holdings. It paid for his new life. It paid for Marcus Thorne's betrayal. And it owns the very security firm that was supposed to be protecting my most valuable assets. He hid in plain sight, using my own money against me." The audience gasped, the sheer scale of the deception stunning them into silence. "These are baseless accusations," Julian roared, his face purple with rage. "You have no proof connecting me to this company. It's another lie in a web of lies designed by a desperate man whose empire is crumbling. Show me one piece of concrete evidence." Finch gestured to the side of the stage. Donovan appeared, flanking a man in handcuffs. "This is Elias Vance," Finch explained. "Until this morning, he was the CEO of the security firm guarding my data center, a firm owned by Nightingale Holdings. But 20 years ago, he was a charter boat captain, the primary witness who falsely identified a mutilated body as Julian Croft in exchange for a lifetime of wealth and power. Tell them, Elias. Tell them who paid you to lie." Elias Vance, his head bowed in shame, mumbled into the microphone. "It was Julian. He planned it all. He promised me a fortune if I swore on my life that he was dead. The body. It was a drifter he'd paid off and then murdered to take his place. He gave me the CEO position at his new company as a reward for my silence, It was him. It was always him. He's a liar, a criminal trying to save himself, Julian shrieked, his composure shattering. Mr. Vance has already signed a full confession as part of a plea agreement with federal authorities, Serafina stated coolly. His testimony is corroborated by financial records, linking him directly to Nightingale Holdings since its inception. He has nothing left to lose by telling the truth. But Julian is a meticulous planner, Finch continued, pacing the stage. He knew the poison might fail, so he arranged a backup plan. While his assassin was in my kitchen, he had a team in place across the street, in the Sovereign Hotel. In room 712, to be precise. A room with a perfect, unobstructed sniper's view of my penthouse office. If the poison didn't kill me at dinner, a bullet was meant to finish the job when I returned to work. The crowd, already reeling, let out another collective gasp. Phones were held high, recording every word. More fantasy, more fiction, Julian spat. Where is your proof? A hotel registry. Anyone can book a room. You have nothing but wild speculation designed to create a panic and distract from your own incompetence. Finch clicked his remote, displaying a new image on the giant screen. This is a photo of a napkin found in the kitchen trash after Julian fled, he said. It's from the Sovereign. You can see the room number, 712, and a time, 10 p.m. He was careless. He thought I'd be dead, that no one would be looking. He made a mistake, and that mistake unraveled everything. This napkin places his operation at the scene of the secondary crime. Julian's eyes widened in horror. He remembered dropping the napkin. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. "It's a coincidence," he stammered, his voice losing its power. "It could be anyone's napkin. It doesn't prove I was there, or that there was any sinister plan. It's meaningless trash." A well-dressed man in a hotel uniform walked onto the stage. "I am the general manager of the Sovereign," he said clearly. "We cooperated with Mr. Finch's security team. Room 712 was booked for 3 nights under the alias John Nightingale. The room was paid for with a corporate credit card issued to Nightingale Holdings. Furthermore, our staff confirmed that the guest who checked in perfectly matched the description of Mr. Croft. He checked out in a hurry last night, leaving the room wiped clean." "He's been paid off! Finch bought his testimony!" Julian screamed, pointing a trembling finger. "The credit card transaction is a digital fact, Julian," Finch said, his voice like ice. "It is not a testimony. It is a permanent record of your actions, logged by the bank and the hotel's servers, a trail you were too arrogant to believe anyone would ever find." "But even the assassination was just a diversion," Finch's voice rose, commanding the attention of every person in the room. "The true target was never just me. It was my life's work, Project Chimera. While my team was focused on the threat to my life, Julian's real team was inside my primary data center. They weren't there to steal the data. They were there to plant a military-grade thermobaric bomb directly beside the prototype server, set to detonate this morning." A wave of panic rippled through the investors and press. The destruction of Project Chimera would be catastrophic. "He's lying to manipulate the market," Julian yelled, trying a different tactic. "He's inventing a threat to create a surge of sympathy before the launch. There is no bomb. It's the most secure facility in the country. No one could get a device like that inside." The screen changed again, showing a signed and dated work order. "They didn't have to break in," Finch stated coldly. "Marcus Thorne signed this work order, authorizing a team from Julian's logistics company, another Nightingale subsidiary, to perform an emergency cooling unit upgrade at 3 a.m. last Tuesday. Here are the security stills of his men carrying the device inside. They were inside the server room for 4 hours. The bomb has been sitting there for a week." Julian collapsed back into his chair, his face ashen. The work order was undeniable proof. "It's a fake document," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "The logs were altered. This is a sophisticated frame job. He has falsified every piece of evidence to destroy me." Donovan, Finch's head of security, stepped forward. "I led the team that swept the hotel room after Mr. Croft fled," he said. "We found shredded documents in the sink's plumbing trap. My forensics team painstakingly reassembled them. They were schematics, not for a cooling unit, but for a thermobaric device powerful enough to level the entire building. The signature on the component list matched a known weapons manufacturer used by rogue states. This was not a hoax." "There's no proof," Julian shrieked, finding a last shred of defiance. "Even if they planned it, it doesn't mean it's still there. You have no proof the plan is active. The final piece of this puzzle isn't physical, it's financial," Finch said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Because destroying my life's work wasn't enough. Julian wanted to profit from it. Minutes before the bomb was set to detonate, his shell company, Nightingale Holdings, executed one of the largest short sales in market history. Billions of dollars, betting that Finch Industries stock would be worthless by noon today. He planned to destroy my legacy and become unimaginably wealthy from its ashes." The financial journalists in the room began typing furiously, the revelation sending shockwaves through the market. "That's a legitimate market strategy," Julian defended weakly. "Aggressive, perhaps, but not illegal. It's business. He can't prove any connection between a stock trade and his imaginary bomb." Finch projected a document on the screen. It was a trade confirmation from a Swiss brokerage. "Here is the record of the trade," Finch said. A massive block of put options, purchased 60 seconds before the bomb's scheduled detonation. The trade was initiated by a fund controlled by Nightingale Holdings. The timing is not a coincidence. It is a confession. You were so certain of your victory that you placed your bet before the game was even over. Julian. Julian stared at the screen, his mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. "It's circumstantial," he finally managed to choke out. "You can't prove intent. The market is volatile. My analyst simply predicted a downturn. This is a desperate man's fantasy." A woman in a severe business suit stood up from the audience. "I'm Agent Miller, with the SEC's Enforcement Division," she announced. "This trade was so anomalous, so perfectly timed to a catastrophic event, that it triggered every automated alert in our system. It is the single most suspicious trade I have seen in my career. We have already frozen all assets associated with Nightingale Holdings, pending a full investigation into what appears to be insider trading based on a planned act of domestic terrorism." "She's one of his cronies, part of the conspiracy," Julian screamed, now completely unhinged. Finch shook his head sadly. "She is a federal agent, Julian. The game is over. Your assets are frozen, your accomplices have confessed, and your plan has failed. We found the canary key Marcus Thorne hid in the work order's metadata. We disarmed your bomb." "You're a coward, Julian," Finch stated, walking down the steps from the stage, moving slowly toward him. "A parasite so consumed by jealousy that you chose to burn down the world rather than build something of your own. You spent 20 years hiding in the dark, plotting this grand revenge. But you failed. You failed because you never understood that true strength isn't about deception or destruction. It's about creation, and it's about trusting the right people." The crowd parted as Finch approached Julian's seat. Everyone was silent, recording. "It's over," Finch said quietly. "Your ghost story has come to an end." The main screen flickered to life one last time, showing a live feed. A bomb squad was carefully removing the thermobaric device from the data center. In the background, pristine and untouched, The Project Chimera prototype server hummed with power. The image was undeniable. The victory was absolute. Julian's face went from pale to a deep, mottled red. His eyes were wide with pure, undiluted hatred. "It's not over," he shrieked, his voice a raw scream of fury. "It was all mine. The company, the ideas, the future. You stole it from me." Seraphina Reed walked calmly down the aisle, holding a small, clear evidence bag. Inside was a single cufflink. "We also recovered this from the hotel room floor. Julian," she said, her voice cutting through his rage. "A cufflink with your initials, JC, and a small engraved nightingale. The logo for your shell company. You were so arrogant, you branded your crimes, just like you're confessing to them now, in front of 300 witnesses and a dozen news cameras." That was the final blow. Seeing the cufflink, the symbol of his secret empire, held up for the world to see, shattered the last of his control. With a primal roar, Julian lunged over the chairs, his hands outstretched like claws, aiming for Finch's throat. "I should have killed you 20 years ago," he screamed, his confession echoing through the hall. "It was all mine!" Before he could reach his target, Donovan and 2 uniformed officers tackled him to the ground. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the only sound in the vast, silent auditorium. "Julian Croft," one of the officers said, reading him his rights. "You are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and domestic terrorism." As they hauled the screaming, struggling man away, Finch turned back to the podium, his expression grim but resolute. He looked at Clara, who watched with tears in her eyes, and gave her a small, grateful nod. The ghost was gone. The future could finally begin.